Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Renee.
And I'm Debbie, and we are
The
Roundtable
Roundtable
Recap.
Recap. Welcome back. We're talking about Traitors UK's season 3, and we are now on episode 3. So, starting off, it starts at the breakfast. And what I noticed was that, Leanne's already suspecting Armani as being a traitor.
Because at the breakfast, being that there was no murder, that there was different reactions going on. Notice Livy, of course, was emotional, crying
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah. The emotional bunch.
And yes, yeah, Armani still comes across as being confident, and Kaz was doubting himself and everything because of what had happened the night before, I think, at the round table.
Yeah, they definitely have their target on Kaz right now. And I think it
Mhm.
is a good sign that Leanne confided in Mina because Mina being a traitor, I do feel like she is playing the role really good where nobody suspects her at all. So she's getting a lot of good information from the other players and can kind of help play her cards right.
Right, yeah. Yeah, because I have that, yeah, Alex and Leanne, were both suspecting Armani, and then Mina goes ahead and gives Linda a heads up about, well, she was trying, it didn't
Yeah,
show
at
that
least
she
she
gave
she
Mina,
tries to. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Which I feel like as long as the traders aren't discussing things all the time together, I don't feel like it puts up any type of red flag because I mean, you can see through the show or the episode that they do have a lot of one-on-ones. I don't think it would automatically put a target. I know as a trader, you're probably feeling like, oh, it's so obvious us two confiding in each other, but I don't really think that's the case because she had mentioned something about it was hard to kind of get Linda away from people.
Yeah, I think it's a balancing act because you don't want to look suspicious like you're avoiding people, because then that puts a question mark, I think, in people's minds that, these people are always avoiding each other. But then also,
If you get together too often, then obviously, yeah.
right,
Okay, so I know Jake, he's still on to Linda. And now because Linda is on his radar, which makes Kaz, as you mentioned, on his radar as well.
yeah, Jake and Joe are the ones that are uh, getting together and talking about Linda and Kaz a lot. It seems like Jake and Joe are kind of forming an informal alliance, because they're always confiding in each other. And then Dan, he's kind of brought into groups, but then he's just kind of on his own.
Yeah.
I
And
don't know if that has. Mhm.
yeah, he firmly believes that Kaz, and I think that's why he's kind of breaking off, is because the group that he was brought into was so adamant that Kaz was a traitor, and then you can see him saying like, "I don't think he is at all," and that's when him and Kaz kind of come together and discuss Jake.
Yes. Okay, so that's all that I really had for the breakfast.
So then moving
And then
on to the mission. Or
yes,
okay, I was just making sure you didn't have anything before the mission.
no, no. So did you get the Johnny Cash reference?
Oh yeah, I knew. I mean, I forgot who pointed out, but right away they said something about the Ring of Fire. I mean, that's one of his famous songs, so I figured it had to do something with fire. In what
Yeah,
capacity? I don't know, but yeah.
a ring and fire.
Well, yeah, but as we see going into the mission 2, basically what they need to do is get fuel off of these pontoons. They go out on this rowboat, uh,
Pontoons.
pontoons. What did I just say? I don't know. But okay. So they go on this rowboat thing and they need
The Viking
to
boat.
Okay, you described the mission too. So moving on to mission 2.
Yes, where they get into the Viking boat, and on the pontoons, they either have fuel or they have a chest of money or gold, whatever they call it. And then who at the end, whoever is in that ring of, well, the object is to get the fuel to light the ring of fire, and whoever ends up inside the ring when it's lit will get a shield,
Mhm.
everybody inside, so everybody would be safe from murder.
And the twist is once they come up to the first one, then that's when they realize they have to sacrifice two people for either the gold or the fuel, depending on what is on there.
So
So
what'd you think of,
Frankie,
I was going to
oh,
say, what'd you think about them even getting started with the rowing and everything?
I thought it was a hot mess. With Frankie and Lisa taking charge right away. I mean, they even said that it took a while to get their rhythm. But even so, what is it? After the second one, maybe the third one, Mina was like, "Forget it." She's like, which I don't
Yes.
blame her because she's like, "Linda's just getting louder in my ear about to row or push, push," and her saying she wasn't doing it. So, I mean, I think
Yeah,
for the most part, they obviously got the hang of it, but it did take a while.
yeah. I thought they did pretty good. I thought, considering how many people they had to coordinate, that they actually
Hmm.
got the boat moving. I think that was a big accomplishment right there. But yes, but then everybody getting on everybody's nerves,
Yeah.
whether they start off with heave ho or whatever, and then or what did they start off
Yeah, I
with?
think I think they tried to do numbers first, or maybe
Oh,
it was heave ho, and then it was
okay.
pull or push or
Yeah, push, pull. Yes. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and so they come up to the first one, and then Jake and Charlotte are the ones that first get off. And my first initial reaction was, oh, that is not a good look for Charlotte, because Charlotte already is on people's radar from the night before. And I
Right.
would think, like, as a trader, because the first one's fuel, and obviously the traders don't need the shields to be safe. I didn't feel anyways that it was a good look for her to be the first one to volunteer.
No, it wasn't, but nobody was volunteering. So yeah,
No.
yeah, I agree. It was yeah, not good for her, but at the same time, I mean, this group just does not, it's just like on the train. Nobody wants
Mm-mm.
to step forward. Everybody's sitting back and waiting for somebody else to take a step forward. And nobody wants to put their game at risk.
Yeah,
Everybody wants to
I would
put,
have been so upset if I was Jake and Charlotte, because right after they got off, then they see them go to the next two, which are golds, and they
Mhm.
decide to pass up those two golds. So they passed up essentially 5K. And so right now, Jake and Charlotte are the only ones at risk at this point. So
Right,
I
at
would have been
risk for being
upset.
moved.
Right,
Mhm.
because I mean, obviously, they're not gonna get a shield, they already know that, and to not have anybody else step up or anything was would have been disappointing to me.
I thought it was funny when on the second pontoon, Armani gets out. She gets the gold. She's ready to put it in the boat, but
Yeah,
nobody wants to get off.
yeah,
Because as well as a team, but particularly as a trader, you want to get the gold and you want to
I
build
know,
that pot.
I mean, honestly, she was already out, I would just been like, it's obviously nobody wants to volunteer, but I kinda would have pushed for it a little bit more if I was her. Yeah, as you said, she was already out of the boat, she already had it. If anything, she
Right.
could have stayed behind and somebody else maybe could have been willing to stay with her, but
Yeah. Yeah. But nope, not in this group. Nobody wants to get off.
no, so then the next one is obviously fuel. So they're like, okay, we need to have two people get off. And that's that part where Mina was just over the whole rowing of
Mhm.
it. So she gets off.
Nina and Kaz.
Yeah, because Maya and Freddie get off at the last one, which is for the 5K, which is the double golds for that one.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so
But
they actually did add some money to the pot.
Mhm.
So at least they took a risk. At least two people stepped up. So actually, instead of having 10 people at risk for murder, now there's only six, and one of them is a traitor.
Right, and, obviously, Freddie gets off, and his first thing, basically, he says to, Mia is that pretty much he hopes that they fail, which I don't blame him for saying because
Right.
like, nobody else volunteered, so I completely get where he's coming from, but I can see being suspicious of people that it could look like he was a traitor for saying that in a way.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Again, in the game, you have to be careful about any comments that are made. I mean, I know it was made out of frustration, because of the whole rowing thing. I think that just got on everybody's nerves. And so that was, I think, just more or less said because he was frustrated with the whole situation. But unfortunately,
Put
it can
him
get
in a bad light.
right. Yeah.
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 So then they all come back. Well, not the ones that are left on the pontoons.
Pontoons.
And so you can see Armani. I think she made a mistake here because she went against the majority of the group that she was discussing the players with, and they were all on board saying like Kaz is a traitor. And so she went
Mhm.
against and vocalized that she does not think she's a traitor, which obviously I think since people were already suspecting her, it just kind of
Mhm.
confirmed it. So I thought that that's what she had made a mistake on this episode.
Yeah. But she's so confident. She really wasn't even aware that she was on anybody's radar as being a possible traitor. I think that's why she was so free in giving her opinion still. I think had she known, if somebody had given her a heads up that people were talking about her as being a potential traitor, I think she would have been a little bit more careful. Maybe her game may have changed a little bit, but I think she was just left out in the dark. And so she was being Armani, just vocalizing and,
Yeah, I'm kind
saying
of
what she
shocked
thought.
that Mina didn't try to like pull her aside or say I mean, I don't know if she would have listened to her or not, but yeah, I mean, definitely because they cut to the confessional, she definitely felt confident. She was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go into the round table like nothing." And
Yeah.
yeah, I should find out
Yeah, I
later
think
that's not the case.
I think yeah, I think Mina was over that remark that Armani had made in the Traitors turret that
Yeah, yeah, I didn't think that went over well at all with them.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if she was still harboring some ill feelings because of that, but irregardless, she it didn't show that she gave Armani a heads up about people starting to talk about her. So yeah, so Armani was left in the dark. I liked Jake's reaction when he got back because I'm not a huge fan of Jake, but then when he got back and he was just so upset with everybody. And then of course, especially with Dan, him and Dan get into it about being a team player versus being a solo player and just looking out for
Yeah.
yourself. Obviously, the whole challenge just kind of stirred things up with everybody. Kind of got on everybody's nerves.
I did like that Jake came in and was upset and whatnot because I mean it is true that even though this is a very selfish game because only so many are going to make it to the end, when it comes to challenges, it is a team challenge. Like you do have to work as a team. You do have to put aside that it's a selfish game. I mean, obviously sometimes you have to do what's best for your game. That's a given. But yeah, this early on they could have at least made more money with more people. You kind of already know who's on whose radar, or, I feel like, I mean, some people get blindsided by being murdered, but for the most part, this early on in the game, I don't think the shields are as necessary as later in the game.
Yeah,
So I
I
think he was
agree.
very valid in his points.
Yeah.
So then we go to the round table,
Mhm.
right?
Well,
Okay.
before that,
Did you have
Charlotte
anything?
actually asked Maya about Armani being a traitor. So that was, I think, the first time somebody approached Maya about Armani, about her sister.
Oh, yeah, her sister.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So they showed that, and Maya, had said that it had crossed her mind. She had thought about that Armani may be a traitor.
Which, yeah, I
So
mean, she did. Yeah, it was the first time that she divulged that information, but I do remember her saying that her sister was kind of acting a little off. I remember that in a
right,
previous episode.
she didn't say that to anybody. She
Yeah, no, no,
just
no. That was just her confessional where she's,
yeah, but this is the first time that she's confided in somebody that she may think that her sister. I mean, that pulls a lot of weight when you say, your sister, somebody you're related to, may be a traitor. I think
oh,
that
yeah, I
that
think that was the start of sealing Armani's fate
yeah,
because, yeah, I mean, obviously Armani goes home this episode, and I really think it was because her sister sealed her fate in that
yes,
decision. I mean, because they
Yep.
already had the suspicions, and then, yeah, as you said, someone that actually knows a person outside the game even suspects them. I mean, yeah, if I was a player, I'd be like, this is a no-brainer then. Like,
Yeah.
and if it's
That's why,
not her, then it's the other sister type of
yeah, that's why I
thing.
think they should have kept their relationship more secret. I think
Yeah,
this when it really comes back to hurt them, the fact that they had divulged so early on that they were in fact sisters.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I think
So
this is where it came around to bite him in the butt for sure.
yep.
So Mia, she brings up the fact that what Freddie said, but I think, for him being a traitor, and that pretty much just gets shot down, or at least the editing. It looks like it's pretty much he gets brought up, but no one really
Mhm.
questions it, and then it just kind of goes away. Linda, I don't think she does really good at round tables now
No.
because because this is again where she gets called out, and I just feel like she doesn't know how to rebuttal correctly, or like she doesn't know how to defend herself. So I
Mhm.
think her reaction is just to deflect. Who is it? Joe calls her out, and he's like, you never have anybody who you suspect. So then, of course, Linda turns around and says, well, actually, I was suspecting you. Where Joe's like, oh, of course you were. Like, oh, Linda, like you could pick
Yeah.
anybody from the table, anybody, because I mean that's what she did to Jake. Like Jake
Right.
called her out, and she said that she thought Jake was a traitor. So I don't think it looks
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, she doesn't have a good strategy for the round table. That's
No.
for sure. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you said, there's names being thrown out there. She could have jumped on one of those names, but instead she goes after the people who are attacking her.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's I don't know. It's a terrible gameplay, I think.
Yeah,
I
it
mean, at
is.
least as a trader, you got to have some sort of someone on your radar, and you have to start building a case why they're on your radar.
Mhm.
Because,
Right,
yeah, in those instances where you're getting attacked or whatnot, you can try to flip the tables and like say, well, no, because I think this person is. And, so that way it can kind of turn heads to that person and take the heat off of you.
yeah, because I think earlier, before the round table, Joe had made the comment that Linda just sits back and really doesn't say much. And I think as a trader, you have to be careful. Like you said, you have to find somebody at least to go after, not just
Yeah.
sit back and play a passive game. You don't have to play as aggressive as Armani, but you have to play some type of a game instead of
Yeah.
just sitting back, I think.
Yeah. Because either way, if you're not helpful to the faithfuls either, they're gonna vote you off just because, what are we gonna do? Carry you through and you don't have any sort of
Right.
input or helpful information.
Right, because it's all about strategy and people are getting together and I mean they're comparing notes, they're trying to figure out who the traders are and if she's just kind of floating around, yeah, she's not any good to the faithfuls.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Then obviously they bring up Armani, and
Yes.
it's a surprise by her. You can tell that she's
Yeah.
not, yeah, she's kind of shocked at it. And then obviously when her sister even calls her out, to me, she kind of looked a little hurt or taken back, at least, that her sister would say that she even suspected her as a
Mhm.
traitor.
Tyler made
And
a good point about when he brought up about Armani and why have two sisters in the game. You wouldn't have two sisters. Why have two sisters as two faithfuls?
mhm,
It would make, he brought up the point about it would make better sense to have one as a faithful and one as a traitor. But it becomes a real issue. And then, yeah, with Armani trying to defend herself, and then she kind of goes after her sister, saying her sister might be a traitor. It just kind of all fell apart, I think, at that
yeah,
point.
I think she didn't have a really good defense. I think she should have taken a page out of Linda's book and deflected. Not deflected at her sister either, but like
Right,
deflected to somebody else. Like
right,
I think that
yeah,
would have been her only saving grace at that point, because I mean, it was, in my eyes, it was a sealed deal. And she's like, I don't know what to say. I'm a faithful. And then, yeah, of course they cut it. All
yeah,
right, time's up. Like,
yep.
yeah.
You're done.
Yep. Yep. It was pretty much done. Game over. Yeah. So, and then obviously Mina, she voted
Mhm.
for Armani to go out, which I agreed with her. I was
Yeah.
pretty sure that Armani was gone. So if I was her, I would have voted for her just to not stand out or go against the group.
Yeah, I think Linda made a mistake by not doing the same thing. Of course, she's
Hmm.
still going after Jake, which if she would just, I mean, that is what it is. He suspects her. He's not going to change. It doesn't matter if she votes for him or not. She could have made her vote. I mean, nobody else. Go for who you think is a traitor. You know, go with the majority. Don't stand out. Well, you had votes for Freddie. You had votes for Amani. One of those. But yeah, not good.
Yeah.
Not good for Linda.
Yeah. So we'll see how far she goes in the game. I don't know. It's since episode 1, it has not been looking good for Linda, but I mean, she stayed in so
No.
far through 3 episodes. So,
Yeah, I think she would be a good trader if she just doesn't have a good strategy.
yeah.
I think she would be a good trader.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think she's good at the social game, and
Yes.
she's good even at challenges, not really standing out, um
Mhm.
or at least so far, she's been doing pretty good at blending in with challenges. So she just got to work at her round table game, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Um,
And then the trader's turret when they have to murder somebody.
yep. So it's only really 5 people
Hmm.
at this point
Yeah.
who they can go after, but really at the end, they're just throwing around Charlotte, Maya, and Freddie. Which when they threw out Charlotte, my reaction at this
No,
point was like, "No, don't
not.
kill off Charlotte," because I think she was still on people's radar. It was just that they were trying to go after stronger people at this point. So I
Hmm.
think to kill off Charlotte would have been a bad choice, given the fact that she may be voted out potentially.
Hmm. Yeah, she already has suspicion on her.
So yeah, they have their choices of Freddie, Maya, or Charlotte.
And then, would you think about at the end, how the episode ended with the rail replacement carriages?
Oh yeah, I think that will be preluded to the fact that there could be a chance to bring back those people, those 3 that I was gonna say kicked off, but I guess they weren't. They
No.
volunteered to be kicked off the train, and so I'm excited. I'm excited to get into the next episode because I wanna see what happens with those 3 players.
Yeah, yeah. I like the idea that they could be bringing them to the castle. I thought it was very ominous that they were the way that it ended. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm excited for episode 4.
Yep, we get to see who they murdered and what happened to those 3 players. So we'll see you next week while we discuss episode 4.
Yay!
See you then.